Cavalry. See any cavalry? No cavalry, sir. Another sharp round of shooting caused Lucas and Captain Greenlee to look again across the clearing. That sounds close, Greenlee said. He stroked his beard and looked toward the distant tree line. All right, Sergeant. Maybe Chambers is right. Go back and tell him to stop moving this way. Yes, sir, Lucas replied. He started back across the open field. He followed the same path he had used before, jumping over logs and splashing through streams. Suddenly, there was a loud popping sound in his ear, and a mini ball knocked off his cap and spun him around. Lucas hit the ground hard, aware that his face was bleeding from shavings thrown into his cheek when the ball smashed into the tree beside him. He dropped his rifle, and it scooted out across the ground, winding up several feet in front of him. Somewhat stunned, Lucas got back to his hands and knees and started crawling toward his musket, when suddenly, a pair of gray-clad legs appeared in front of him. Then another, and another still. Lucas looked up to see several Confederate infantrymen staring down their rifle barrels at him. "Where do you think you're going, Yank?" one of the rebels asked. Lucas looked around for his rifle, and finding it, reached for it. "Better leave it there, Sergeant," someone said. The speaker was a mounted Confederate officer who was holding his pistol on Lucas. Lucas felt his heart pounding as he took several deep breaths, fighting against the fear that was building up inside. Where did all these people come from? He began looking around and saw that he was surrounded by Confederate soldiers. The mounted officer made a motion with his pistol, indicating that Lucas should leave his rifle where it lay. Lucas stood. "What do I do now?" he asked. "Good that you had sense enough to ask that," the officer said, with an asymmetrical smile that lifted one corner of his mouth up, while the other turned down. "On account of you won't be doing nothing unless we tell you to." He looked toward the Confederate infantrymen, picked out a corporal. "Take him over and put him with the others." "Yes, sir," the corporal replied. The officer galloped off as the rebel soldiers marched Lucas away. When Lucas reached the place where he had left Lieutenant Chambers not a half hour earlier, he saw that all the others were prisoners as well. Lieutenant Chambers had a wound in his shoulder, and it was being bandaged by one of the soldiers from Lucas's company. Those from the company, as well as several from other companies, were sitting on the ground, weaponless, guarded by half a dozen Confederate infantrymen. Looking around the battlefield, Lucas saw several Union dead, many more than had been there when he left on his courier mission. One of the Confederates who had been escorting him jabbed the business end of his rifle into Lucas's back. "Sit down!" the rebel soldier barked. Lucas sat on the ground next to Dan Lindell and the wounded Lieutenant Chambers. "Are you hurt?" Lucas asked Dan. "No. What about you?" "Nothing," Lucas answered, as he looked toward Chambers. "How are you, Lieutenant?" "I'll be all right," Chambers said, in a wheezing, gasping voice. Just over the lieutenant's shoulder, and unseen by him, one of the other soldiers in the company shook his head slowly, letting Lucas know that the wound was much worse than Chambers was letting on. "Turns out there were a lot more than I thought," Chambers said. "Sorry about that, boys. I'll let you down." Lucas glanced over towards some of the dead. Then he let out a sorrowful sigh as he recognized one in particular. "Damn, they got Peter," he said. Peter Carson could neither read nor write, so Lucas had written some letters for him and had read the letters he had received. Peter was married and had a small child. "Sidney's gone too," Dan said. Lucas looked around at the others in his company. Those who weren't dead were sorrowing for those who were. Dan smiled wanly at Lucas. "This hasn't been one of our better days." "No, I wouldn't say so," Lucas agreed. "Y'all lie flat on the ground," a Confederate corporal ordered. "Don't nobody stand, don't nobody do nothing, less'n we tells you to." "What about them fellas, Corporal?" one of the guards called, indicating a couple of blue-clad soldiers a few feet away, who were now digging graves. "Want them to quit and lay down too?" "'Cepting them," the corporal said.